Ben Munson, John Polson, here with Memorie Group. Ben, I really wanted to get a chance to have this conversation with you, and we're going to be having these conversations monthly at this point, so that we can talk about some exciting things that are happening, not just here at the Memorie Group, but here within the local region, local area, because you have initiated a great connection with this program. Yeah, based on this sign right here behind us, which is GRID. And we've already now had one of our full meetings here for GRID and kicked off in the month of March. Yeah. And we've got another meeting coming up in the month of April. Those meetings are the third Wednesday of every month. That's correct. But I would love for you to get a chance to talk a little bit about GRID. This meeting is going to be one where we're meeting every second Thursday around this time, planning for 11 o'clock in the morning. And now that we solved some of our technical glitches, I think we can figure this out. But I want you to talk a little bit about GRID. Talk about what GRID is, how you got involved with GRID real quick, and then we'll jump into some of what we talked about last week.
Yeah, absolutely. So GRID is it's an investor network, real estate investor network, and it's based out of the Northern Virginia market. There's a gentleman that started it, Rob Chavez, out of Northern Virginia, and what really drew me to GRID was that it's really unlike a lot of these like real estate seminar investor kind of things that are selling products in the back or selling education in the back of the room. You know, GRID is really about coming together out of contribution and just creating an ecosystem of like-minded people to learn and collaborate on and about real estate investing and creating wealth through real estate. And so, you know, with GRID, you kind of think of the power grid. The power is in the network. Yep. And so it really is just a networking environment. It starts off every month, like you said, on the third Wednesday of every month at 5:30. We meet at William & Mary's Entrepreneur Hub.
Right down the street.
Yep.
Here on Richmond Road.
Yep, right down the street. And we connect at 5:30 there on that Wednesday. And we start every program with kind of a featured speaker and a subject. And so the last one was about the legal side of how to structure your investments, how to protect your assets. You know, do you want to buy something in an LLC or not? And Richard Campbell, who is kind of our go-to real estate attorney here in Williamsburg, was the featured speaker for that. And so he shared with the group for about an hour or so, and then we kind of rolled it over into kind of open networking and open conversation. So, you know, that was a really, I think, you know, it was our first meeting, and I was really pleased with the turnout, and the conversations we had were fantastic.
Yeah, there were some amazing conversations during that meeting. We had, I don't remember the numbers, but there was 20 or more people, I think, in that room.
Oh yeah,
it seems. Yeah, and Richard had some great subject matter he was bringing. Of course, you know, he as a real estate closing attorney does a lot of other things with real estate, but he certainly understands the aspects of, you know, protecting yourself and minimizing your liability, and setting your business for real estate investing up correctly so that you're protecting your assets. And I think the title for the meeting was "Lawyer Up."
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, protecting yourself and protecting your assets. I love that he brought up the subjects of owning properties in a trust, how to do so also with LLCs, multi-layering your holdings so that you're protecting yourself from liabilities. Had a couple of real estate investors that were there, very savvy, that had a large portfolio.
Yeah.
And
very interesting folks showed up.
Really interesting folks. We had one series of conversations, even a debate a little bit that happened back and forth between an investor that had multiple holdings with a trust, and each of the properties held in different LLCs. Everything passed through the ownership transfers that happened through the transaction with the trust itself, as opposed to sale of properties. Really sophisticated.
A learning experience for all of us.
Learning experience for all of us, but a very sophisticated way of protecting his own assets. And these are just local people. These are local people here in Williamsburg that are real estate investors. And we had several private money lenders in the meeting. We'll probably get to that subject a little bit more. But one of the subjects I think that was really awesome that Richard brought up that I think caught our attention and actually caught the attention of one of the investors right there at the meeting was owner financing the sale of property.
Yeah.
And being involved in owner financing. And I'm always reminded how important the banks are in real estate, and how more important we consider banks to be in real estate.
Access to capital.
Access to capital. And it's not necessarily about making $1 million on every deal. Sometimes it's about making a couple, a little bit of money on every deal can make a lot of money when you do a lot of deals. And owner financing your deals can be a great way to build protection for yourself, but also to build that wealth. And Richard advocated for that. I thought that was really awesome. He mentioned how much he was in favor of owner financing the sale of your property. But tell us a little bit about one of the investors that popped up, and kind of like she had an aha moment.
Yeah, well, actually, on the private money side, so I've worked with Richard in the past to have him structure notes and deeds of trust to do private loans for me in the past, which has been, really phenomenal. And, if you've got access to those private lenders, it really opens up a world of possibility to you. So, to that point, and I'll mention that investor in a minute, but, our next meeting coming up on, this coming Wednesday at 5:30.
Next Wednesday.
That we titled "Show Me the Money." And so Show Me the Money is about finding access to capital. When you have a deal, if you can find the money, you've got an investment, right? And so, and not everybody can qualify necessarily with standard, W-2, pay stubs and the whole thing. And, or if you already have a mortgage or two outstanding, some lenders, some banks won't keep giving mortgages. So, finding private capital is a really important piece of the pie for an investor. And more often than not, it boils down to your ability to execute quickly, right? And so for folks to join us this coming Wednesday at 5:30, we're going to be bringing in a private lender who, is lending in our area out of a bucket or two of a couple $1 million and does these private loans that are short term and a couple of points up front. And then we've got a conventional lender who has some investor friendly products. One's called a debt service coverage ratio loan, DSCR.
Very popular.
And those are great because you don't have to qualify with your financials. The property basically qualifies based on its cash flow.
Right.
And so that's a pretty fascinating. So there's gonna be some awesome things there. But what you mentioned I thought was kind of interesting. There was an investor in the group who had maybe 12.5 units, something like that. And as Richard kind of segued into the notion of owner financing a property, you can kind of see the light bulb go off in her head where, when she started asking questions about it, I thought, oh, I bet we're going to circle back on this, and basically, this investor has had these properties for maybe 15, 20 years. They're kind of tired of landlording. It's a bit of a grind. They've tried a couple of property management companies, frustrations. And so they're trying to, effectively retire from being actively involved in their investments and work in that. And so they want to move out of area and just have mailbox money. And the best way to get true mailbox money is to perhaps evolve from being a landlord to being the bank.
Yeah.
Right.
So give me a second. Describe mailbox money a little bit. Yeah. For some people, that might be kind of a new term.
Yeah. It's one of those investor terms that kind of creeps up on you. But mailbox money is basically the concept that, you go out and check your mail, open the mailbox.
You just got the money coming in.
There's checks coming in, right? You didn't have to go and fix toilets for it. You didn't have to call tenants. You didn't have to list properties. You didn't have to show properties. It just comes
while you're sleeping.
And so, if you're the bank, that money comes in, right? Whoever has the mortgage on your house, you're sending them a check every month like clockwork, and on the front end of that mortgage, it's almost all interest, right? So this investor has now approached us after that meeting and said, hey, I think I'd like to explore taking my whole portfolio and selling it owner finance. So now that investor would basically become the bank, right? So if you were the buyer and you're gonna buy her 16 units, and let's just say it's gonna be $2 million for sake of argument, and she owns them free and clear, right? Well, the presumption for the conversation, she owns, and she largely does. You know, she's got all this equity. You could step in with some agreed upon down payment amount. I mean, it could literally be nothing, but odds are she probably wants you to have skin in the game, right? So let's say you put 100 down or 200 down.
A little bit different than the commercial bank might require, but.
Right, I mean, it's literally anything, right? 'Cause
Whatever the investor.
the terms are whatever you and the investor agree to. So the terms could literally be anything, right?
Right.
You can literally give her a Cheerio for a down payment if that's what she wants. Like it's whatever you want. You are writing the note, which is really kind of exciting and creates the opportunity, right? Interest rates up for grabs, down payments up for grabs. So, you know, you put your, let's call it 10% down, 200 down, and she basically gives you title to the properties, right? You bought them, and now you have a mortgage for 1.8 million that's payable to her.
Right.
And now if you figure at 7%, $100,000 is about 700 a month to carry, a million, 7,000. So 2 million, about 14K, give or take, right? So now this investor has suddenly created a $14,000 a month completely passive income stream, right? And
Based on the asset.
and if you stop paying, you know, if you stop paying the tenant, she's got to chase you and whatever, right? You've given her this down payment amount. This is why she wants you to have skin in the game. You've got 200,000 on the table. If you default for some reason, she takes the portfolio back, just like the bank would take your house if you stop paying the bank. So,
But now she doesn't have to fix toilets, now she doesn't have to deal with tenants, now it's on the
Right.
new owner.
Yep.
To
it's up to you to manage, right?
Right, or the management company that owner takes and puts it into,
Right.
or whatever it is, it becomes money income for her without.
Yeah. So I mean, if there's vacancy loss, not her problem, right?
Right.
If all of them go vacant next month, you got to still pay that note. And if you don't, she comes and takes it back.
There's a reason,
You know?
there's a reason why the biggest buildings in every city are banks.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think
That's the
about
side of the table you want to
it,
be.
that's the side of the table you want to be on.
Yeah.
And if you can take that mindset as a real estate investor, there's opportunities
Yeah.
in real estate that aren't just about the property itself, but it's about the holding of the money and so forth, which will lead us right into next week's meeting. Again, when's our next meeting coming up?
So coming up this coming Wednesday, 5:30, we meet in the William and Mary Entrepreneur Hub, and that's a really great facility. It's actually under the same roof as the Chick-fil-A across the street from campus there on Richmond Road. And
really awesome facility.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, and it's so Show Me the Money is the name of is kind of the theme of the conversation. Again, we're gonna have a private lender there, which you might have heard referred to as like a hard money lender, right? And we're gonna have a more mainstream conventional lender there who's got some great investor friendly products they'll talk about and kind of open your eyes to what, you know, it's a little bit easier to access cash than you might think, you know, for these things. So those are gonna be phenomenal. And then, you know, just the networking element, the people that we found ourselves in a room with was really surprising. And we had folks who, that one gentleman talking, you know, with some really advanced asset protection of his own. I mean, he's probably north of 100 doors, you know, 50, 100 doors. We had another gentleman.
You wouldn't know it looking at him. This is what's fascinating. You were just passing him on the street.
That's
You really
how,
wouldn't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
But this is a multimillionaire that's in the room with
Yeah.
people as a lifelong real estate investor with multiple doors.
Yeah, we had a gentleman came in from Richmond, and he's flipping 40 to 50 homes a month, or a year, I'm sorry, 40 to 50 homes a year he's flipping, and that's his main bread and butter.
That was awesome.
You know, we had some folks in there that don't own a house yet and are trying to figure out how to get into ownership, and should my first property be a duplex? And, so we really have the whole gamut, but these events are for everyone. You don't have to be a professional in this. You don't have to be, you know, managing 100 doors. You could be just trying to figure out how to get into it. And so it's really an open door for anyone. And the real point is just to get you in conversation and, you know, and in the presence of other folks that are trying to build wealth through real estate. And we're all there to learn.
Yes, we're all, and people are there to share that information. feel like I've been to a number of real estate investor group meetings throughout the region here, parts in other states actually. And this one's got a really just a good feel in the vibe, in the way the meeting structure is.
Yeah.
Because I think it opens that door to more welcoming conversations. And if you're a new investor, you have no reason to feel like you're outclassed or anything. You
Yeah.
want to be in this room with these people,
Yeah.
and these people want to be in this room too.
Yeah.
Because they're realizing there are resources and assets that are available to them through this, which is really pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're into or interested in learning more about real estate investing, if you're a real estate investor, want to expand your network, every third Wednesday of the month at 5:30, right over here at the Entrepreneurship Hub.
Yep.
Call, right?
And this is what it's called.
And it's right here on Richmond Road off of William and Mary's campus here in Williamsburg. And again, we are right now in our downtown office here, the Memorie Group Real Estate Downtown Office, 439 Prince George Street. Ben Munson, Don Polson, glad to hold this conversation, and we are here to help answer any questions that you might have about real estate itself, real estate investing. We're real estate investing. What's the term that they use for GRID? It's the investor certified agent.
Yeah.
So I'm an investor certified agent. You're an investor certified agent, and glad to have this opportunity with GRID to expand our own real estate investing portfolios.
The journey.
And the journey towards
Yeah.
wealth creation.
Yeah.
Have a part of that as well.
The power is in the network.
Powers in the network. Well, this is great. We're going to continue these conversations. For now, we will tune out, and you guys will hopefully see us again next month. Same time, same channel. Well, maybe a few hours earlier at 11 o'clock.